So right now we are in Paulista Avenue. It's one of the biggest avenues in the country, and I would say one of the most important ones in terms of protests. This is where you have the biggest protests against the federal government in the country, and the most influential ones too. So as you can see, we are getting ready for New Year's. This is where they're gonna have the fireworks, and people are gonna come here. There's gonna be music, and they're gonna do the countdown here too. So it's a big party. So we are getting ready for that. If you look over there, it's a very long avenue.
It's a boulevard, right?
You could consider that, yes. We just call it avenue here, and it's full of like this type of buildings. Like they try to make it different. They don't want to be the same, kind of style. They want to change the style. And right there, if you see, there is like a building with like a red thing like on the side. That's our Museum of Art, and it's like one of the most famous places of São Paulo. It's like our postcard too. I can show you that if you want to. But it's pretty cool. I used to live here. I used to study here. This was my place. I have many memories in this place. And it's really like very much like São Paulo, I think. Represents São Paulo.
You used to work on Augusta Street before it changed, right?
Well, yeah, you can say that, and the Gay Street as well, which is just right here. Yeah, cool.
A beautiful Mecca McDonald's that he said used to be a bank. Right next to that boulevard, there's this really cool park. All the tropical plants and Joes, all the tropical Joes. They're not your average Joe. This is how they manage the wires. Whoever this guy is, apparently the Brazilians think he did genocide. But we don't know the history. His name is right here. If anybody knows about Luigi Brizolara, tell us about him.
So apparently like a quick search online showed me that this guy was just a sculpture. And that makes sense because the statue is in front of the Museum of Art. But I don't understand the protest and saying that he was a genocide.
Here's the art museum. It's those red pillars right here.
So let me just try to explain. In Brazil, we have military polices. It's not like a civil police. We have civil police too, but for police in the streets, we use the military. And these are the guys who have guns, and like they can actually arrest people. The civil police doesn't do anything, honestly. And they just like investigate the crimes, but that's like after what these guys do in the streets. So it's a much heavier type of policing, I suppose.
So directly behind me is a giant obelisk in the middle of this park. What's the name of the park?
Ibirapuera.
Ibirapuera Park here in São Paulo. Right there behind us, there's a bunch of really cool apartments, and apparently that's a rich area of town, one of the new areas. But Joe is going to give us a little bit of history on this right now.
This obelisk is about the revolution that happened, the so-called revolution that happened in 32 against the federal government. That at the time they had done a coup, and São Paulo was against that coup. And apparently more than 700 soldiers were killed, and this is in memory of them.
Yeah, it's cool. Right now it's closed, we can't go in there, but Joe did look up the history right here, so he could teach us. So Joe took me to this really nice park. It's nice, it's not too crowded. There's a lot of people, but it's not like crowded. It's big, lots of open spaces. Tell us about the park, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest. It is the biggest park in the city. I'm not sure about the country or the state, but it's a place that people like to go to. On a Sunday, just to relax. And that's what we see today. People like exercising, have some coconut water, be healthy, things that Americans don't like to be.
We're on Natal's Eve right now.
We are what?
Natal's Eve.
Natal's Eve. Yes,
Yes.
Christmas Eve. Yes.
So we're out here enjoying a nice Natal's Eve in the warm sun. Joe, what do you think of Sao Paulo? Oh, also I'll say this. This is like their Central Park. That's what it reminds me of. Central Park in New York City.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's much more tropical. It's different, but it's the same vibes. So what do you think of Sao Paulo, Joe?
And also, I'll say this: it's not a rectangle. It's more like a triangle shape. This park. And interesting fact: there is a tunnel that goes underneath the park. We cannot see it, but it connects both sides of the city because it's so big, right? It cuts the city in sort of this part of the city in two. What was your question again? What do I think
Of Sao Paulo.
of São Paulo?
Now that you've been away for so long, for so many
long.
years.
About the city, you mean?
Yeah, because this is the Sao Paulo video.
Yeah, I really like São Paulo because I think it's a cultural center, not only a financial center, like a financial capital, but it's culturally rich, very artsy as well. You have, the music is great, and arts in general. Food is phenomenal. You have like all sorts of food here. And yeah, it's a cultural capital of South America. So I really like the city.
Would you recommend people come to Brazil?
Definitely, yes, and especially São Paulo, yes, if they like.
Tell them.
come, hashtag come to Brazil.
This is just a nice little view that they have here in this park that Joe took me to. It's like Lakeland, but more diverse swans.
This says a copy of a Greek art.
They got some 1st century Greek art out here where this guy is touching kids with snakes.
This is in front of the park that we were just in, and this is in celebration for the 17th century settlers in the country. Right here.
Yeah, it's really cool. These are the men who made Brazil. So we came up to the statue, we're right here in front of it, and there's a little plaque right here, which gives a little bit of information, which is kind of cool. Basically, this is depicting the Portuguese, this guy, taking a giant marker statue thing, like a pillar like that over there, to the line of the Treaty of Tordesillas. The Treaty of Tordesillas being basically where the Pope decided the line on Earth will go, one half being Portuguese and the other half being Spanish. And because of where that line fell, that's how Brazil was actually made into a country. If you look at where the line actually is, though, a lot of modern day Brazil is on the Spanish side because of things that would happen later in history. But that is the foundation of Portuguese South America here in Brazil. The Treaty of Tordesillas. That's why there was a lot more Portuguese colonization in places like India, Africa, and they have their forts spread all around compared to the Spanish who were very focused in places like Mexico, Cuba, Colombia, Argentina, etc., because that was their half of the earth to rule, which also extended all the way to the Philippines. That's why they had the Philippines and ended after King Philip. Check out our Daman video from India if you want to see one of those Portuguese forts over in India. So looking at some of these statues, we were speculating on whether these were slaves or what that actually drug the marker out there. And it looks by their facial features like some people, like this guy, are supposed to be black, and some people are supposed to be native to Brazil, like South American natives. And that just kind of shows that the labor force that was used to bring this thing out into the jungle somewhere or out into the wilderness. It would have been a lot of African slaves and also indigenous, possibly also slaves.
We were just looking at the statue again, and I saw this date, this year right here, 1921. I think that the sculptor who made this statue, maybe that's when he started his career. I'm not too sure, but that reminded me that around this time, 2022, that's when we have almost like a Brazilian Renaissance in the arts. We have, people trying things out, people getting influenced by things that were coming from Europe, new ideas like Cubism and Impressionism and things like that. And it was just trying things out and trying to create a truly Brazilian style for arts. And to be honest, you see some of these elements right here. If you see the shape of the hands, the shape of the feet as well, how disproportional they are, this is very typical of this period, by the way. Yeah.
So we've come to check out this massive, beautiful cathedral. Unfortunately, it's closed right now. And even more unfortunately, the area in front of it is basically a giant homeless camp. So it looks great, but there's a lot of homeless people here and it's not open. I wouldn't necessarily recommend coming. If you know for sure it's open, definitely come check it out. But not the nicest neighborhood. So this is a different angle on the cathedral. It's really beautiful. It's a giant building. It looks like any giant cathedral in Europe, really great looking, beautiful. Would have been interesting to see a nice traditional Portuguese style Catholic cathedral, but unfortunately, I don't think we're getting in there. But it would have been real nice, especially today on Natal, Christmas. What do you think, Joe? Is it a shame that this place has become a homeless camp?
It has always been like this, I think. This is the city center, the old city center, of course. I think it hasn't really changed much, but it's okay, yeah.
We're gonna go find some food for Joe. He's starving to death. And this is the back of the cathedral. Now, we didn't get to go inside. We asked an employee, but they wouldn't let us in still, even though they have the door open.